I have a 2006 Dodge Ram in the shop today, and the customer complaint is no power steering assist. And as soon as he adds fluid to it, it seems to run right out underneath the truck. So it's leaking the fluid out as fast as he can pour it in. Okay, I got the vehicle in the air and I took the tires off. Let me show you what I found. And a little bit of a drip there on the passenger side. This is your dust boot for your inner tie rod end, and she's torn right open, and there's fluid leaking everywhere out of it. And again, that's a dust boot. There's not supposed to be any fluid inside there. So that means the seals inside the power steering rack are shot, and we're going to put a new rack on it. So the first thing you want to do is disconnect each of your outer tie rod ends. This is your outer tie rod end. These are 21 millimeter, but these are aftermarket, so these may be, a different size on your vehicle. If you take a hammer and you strike this area right here, it'll break the taper and pop the tie rod end right up out of the steering knuckle. Well, that inner tie rod end is really loose on this side too. This right here is the, this black piece right here is a steering shaft, and this is where it connects to the power steering rack. The head of that bolt is a 13 millimeter. I'm going to remove that bolt and slide that black piece up, slide the steering shaft off of the power steering rack. Sometimes it helps if you tap a flat bladed screwdriver or a chisel into that cutout, that flat spot right there, that slit. Kind of widens it out a little bit and helps it slide off. Something worth mentioning is you can't really put this on wrong. It's not splined. It's got flat spots in it, and then one side of it's got a little concave divot for that bolt to go through to lock it in place. So just a good idea not to turn the steering shaft once it's unhooked so you don't damage the clock spring behind the steering wheel. So the next thing we want to do is we want to disconnect these two lines right here. This lower line is the pressure line. This goes straight up to the pump. It's an 18 millimeter. And this top line is a 20 millimeter nut on it. Okay, both the lines are off, and I think all we got left are these two bolts right here that secure the rack in place, and the heads of these bolts are 21 millimeter. No, they're not. They're not a 21 millimeter. 24 millimeter. There we go. That's a big bolt. that just pouring out of there. That's bad. Always replace the O-rings on the ends of these lines. Even if your mail order rack didn't come with one with new O-rings, just match them up and replace them. You always want to do a quick visual comparison between the two parts before you install the new part, because a lot of times once you install it, you own it. So you want to make sure it's right. And other than being cheap, this one appears to be right. I say cheap because it's got zip ties holding the boots on. So this is what I was talking about. You can't screw this up. That can only go on one way. It's flat on both sides, rounded on the back, and then it's got this little concave divot right here for the bolt to go through. Okay, let's put her together. So the rack's all installed in the truck, and the tires are back on it. The next thing to do is do a quick eyeball alignment. I'm pretty fortunate. I've got a shop right down the road 1 mile from my house that does vehicle alignments. So that's where all my vehicle alignments go. But we're going to do a quick eyeball alignment just to get us down there. So here's how I do it. A lot of people have different techniques. You might know something that works better for you, but this is what works for me. So the first thing I did was I went up in the truck and I centered the steering wheel. When you center the steering wheel, it's a good idea just to wiggle it back and forth until it gets right in the center, and then let it go. That kind of puts everything where it needs to be. And then what I do is I look down the front of the tire and I try to line up the sidewall, the front of the tire with the back of the front tire, and I want that rear tire to disappear out of sight at the exact same time these two come together. So you can see when the two come together, we can still see that rear tire, which tells me that this tire is towed out slightly. So we're going to shorten it up. We're going to tow it in, and that'll bring this, let me show you here. This side I didn't do anything to, and it already lined up. So again, we're going to just look down here. We're just going to go to the right until both sidewalls of this front tire meet up with each other, and we want the rear tire to disappear at the exact same time. And it does. So this one's good. We're going to tighten the jam nut. Even though this is going to the alignment shop just down the road, always tighten the jam nuts, because if they put this on the machine and let's just say this side is already green, it's already within spec, they're not going to make any adjustments on this tie rod. So oftentimes they won't even think twice to check the jam nut because they didn't mess with the tie rod. So you want to tighten it yourself, even if they're going to loosen it to make an adjustment. So on this side, we're going to shorten the tie rod because the tie rod is in front of the axle. If it was in the rear, we would lengthen it to tow this tire in. So before we do that other side, I just want to tighten up this jam nut here. Bring this one in, so we're going to turn this way. It's kind of nice the tie rods have a hex built into them. I think this one is a 17 that you can use a pair of vice grips or a pair of pliers or whatever you choose. Now let's take a look here. We're almost there. Right there. Okay, so that's where we need to be. Now again, this isn't a perfect alignment. Don't go driving this because you're going to tear up your tires. Spend the $50 and get the front end aligned. At least $50, that's what they charge me down the road. So, but this will certainly get us there without tearing up our tread. The hood struts are wore out. They've been wore out on this truck for like 3 years. I tried to get the guy to buy some, and he doesn't seem to mind that they're wore out, but he always brings it to me to work on. I kind of mind it. So I think what I'm going to do is order a set of these hood struts off eBay and just work it into his price next time, because I'm the one that's always got to work under his hood. So the fluid recommendation of choice is going to be ATF plus 4. That's what Dodge wants put in there. Now I'm going to start the engine up, circulate some of that fluid, and we'll fill the rest of it up. So the last thing we want to do is lift the vehicle up or climb down underneath it and just look, make sure there's no leaks. Lines are all dry. That line's dry, the power steering's good, pump is dry, boots are good. Thanks for watching, guys.